welcome everybody to part 2 of Resident Evil 8 title reveal sequence animation. Something like that is going to be the title. And today we are going to work in After Effects because in the first part we worked in Photoshop. And those of you guys who have not watched the first part, I would recommend you to watch it and then come back to this very video. As far as we know, we have three different types of images. One is Village, which is this textured image. The other one is going to be Roman 8 in golden-ish colors. And the third one is going to be the rest of the village, which is completely textured and is gray in color. So as you can see that this animation will start with a normal video and then it's going to go back to Village, opacity reduced down, and then boom, a strike of light. 8 shows up with glows and some particles happening in the background, and then Village with Resident Evil at the very bottom. So overall, it's not that hard to do, and we're gonna do it right now. So first of all, I'm gonna click on New Composition, which you can create over here, or you can go to Composition and create New Composition. I'm gonna call it Village Tutorial. They have dragged and dropped this video of Switzerland. Apparently looks like a village. Now since I don't have the exact video that Resident Evil 8 used because it's a video game, so I tried to find something like village. And there's one very cool place that you can find free stock footage and images, and the place where you can get it is by going to pixabay.com, where you can find stock video, stock image, and lot more amazing stuff. Now there might be some videos which are very high quality and it might not be playable so smoothly as it is right now. Now there are two things that you can do. You can either reduce the resolution from full to half or to third or to quarter depending upon how your PC can handle, or you can do another thing is you can right click on this video and you can click create on proxy, and since it's a video you can click on movie. What it's gonna do is gonna render this whole video into a proxy video. And what that does is that actually basically reduces the resolution of the video and it places it in your project. So the video that you're actually looking at is a reduced resolution version of that video, but when it exports, it actually uses the higher resolution video instead of this resolution video. Now I'm not going to go very much detail into this because this tutorial is about something else. So according to the music that is used in Resident Evil 8, apparently at 5 seconds and 3 milliseconds is when the opacity reduces. So what we are going to do is hit T on the keyboard, that will bring the opacity. Click on the stopwatch, that creates a keyframe. Go to 6 seconds and 13 milliseconds. That I'm going with the exact time frame, by the way. And we are going to reduce it to something about 40. 40 seems a little bit fine. Now what we have already done is just reduce the opacity to 40%. And what we will do instead is when the opacity is reducing, we're going to bring in the textured white village text. That is the first ever text that we created. So this is the village text, and now what we are going to do is as the video opacity reduces, the opacity of village goes up. So it goes from 0 to 100, whereas the video, it goes from 100 to 0. So just the opposite. So now this is what we are working with. And now all we have to do is make sure a light goes from the bottom to the top and it shows 8. So first of all, we are going to make a light. Now in this particular situation, I use a third-party plugin called Optical Flares. Now this Optical Flares is a paid plugin. It's not a free plugin, but don't you worry. You can actually do this on free inside of After Effects. You don't even have to use Optical Flares. So we're going to go to Effects and Presets over here. Type in Lens Flare. And as you can see under generate, there's lens flare. So first of all, what we're going to do is click on layer, new solid, and we're going to name it particles. I've already created one. Click on lens flare, drag and drop it towards particles, and boom, there you have it. That's a lens flare. But wait a second, we cannot see anything else under whatever we created. All we have to do is press F4 unless and until you see the mode. If you cannot see the mode, press F4, you will see the mode because it switches between two different scenes, you can say. Click on the mode and go to screen, and now it overlaps with the with all the layers beneath you. And this has actually some good lens light. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep 105. I think it's pretty nice. I'm going to reduce the brightness levels a little bit. Now since the light is very cool, what we are going to do is go to Effects and Presets and search in Hue and Saturation and change the hue from cool blue to orange. So drag the slider over here to bring it to orange. It's still not orange apparently. I think now we are going to somewhere orange. We're going to increase the saturation a little bit. Unfortunately, we cannot change the color of lens flare in this situation. That is where Optical Flares is powerful because you can change particular particles and lenses and change the size of it and change the color of it, and it is just much more practical to use. So what we are going to do is we're going to center this lens flare by clicking on this button and put it all the way to the bottom. Now at first we cannot see the color of the lens flare, right? Because it's all like there's no lens flare at first. So what we are going to do first, we're going to make the flare brightness to 0. And we're going to hit the stopwatch and also the stopwatch to flare center, because we're moving the flare as well as we're increasing and decreasing the brightness. So we're going to press U on the keyboard. That will show all the keyframes that each layer has. Move a little bit forward, not much. I think I'm going to move like 25 from 814 to 825. And we are going to make a little bit increase in the brightness. I think I'm going to go back to 130, I'm going to go 150. And we're going to make sure to take it all the way over here. From one side from one corner to the other. Now it's going to be a little bit tricky, so what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in to this very specific point. All we have to do is press Ctrl Alt and now use a mouse wheel to zoom in. So we're going to do that. And what I'm going to do is set the positioning of the lens flare a little bit ahead of the brightness. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead a little bit. We are making the lens flare bright all the way at the very end. We're going to make it bright right here, because what is happening actually is because this lens flare is so bright is actually hiding the village text and then replacing it with the other village text. Now again, another thing is, I think the initial position of the lens flare is a little bit towards the right side. We're going to push it towards the left side so that most of this is covered. We're going to go ahead and go to this portion and we're going to see if it is actually covering or not. I think it's not at all exactly covering, so we're going to go and try to find a perfect position. I think this will be a pretty nice deal. Now here is when we have to see how much brightness do we need. So we're going to increase this brightness a little bit more, not that much. Go ahead a couple of frames, make sure we have another keyframe and go back to some more frames. And make sure that the brightness goes actually very low. And we have to make sure that the endpoint goes all the way up. So the brightness goes all the way low, and there you have it. We're going to put it to actually 0 because it can be seen a lot. So as you can see, the flare brightness started way earlier. The position started after because we want the flare to bright up first, then go to the middle, get even more brighter, and then move forward, and the brightness reduces. Now the reason why we set another keyframe over there so that the brightness uniformly goes down, because if we do not set that keyframe, it's gonna go bright and for a few seconds and then it's gonna go all the way down, which is not what we want. We do want it for a few seconds, but not very small amount of seconds. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If I delete that keyframe, it goes bright all the way over here and then it immediately goes off because after a few seconds it's going to 0. That is not what we want. We want for a few seconds that the flare is bright enough so that it goes all the way up top and then reduces to 0. What we are going to do is we are going to change the text from the normal one to the Roman 8. So at the very middle of the lens flare, we're going to make a cut for this particular village text. The way you can do that is pressing Alt and using the closed square bracket. Now what that does is that reduces the length of that layer to the pointer that you have selected. So it's not actually going to the same exact position. We're going to drag it back a little bit over here. And now we're going to drag the Roman 8. That is this one. Now since we drag this, it's starting from the very beginning. But we don't want that. We want it to start at the very same pointer. So in order to do that, we have to press on Alt and the opening close bracket. Boom. And now it shifts all that to the pointer where it starts. Boom. This happens. But we don't want the background as well. So what we're going to do is, as this is happening, like when it becomes bright, in the very center, when the flare becomes bright, we have to make sure that the opacity goes to 0. So we're going to make a new keyframe over here, go a couple of frames, actually over here, and then make it completely 0. Since the background is gone, we need something, and that is particles. And that was exactly what was there in the original Resident Evil 8 title reveal. Now I have this particle footage that I downloaded a few years back, but you can get it from the same website of Pixabay. You just have to go down a little bit to find the particular particle file that you are looking for. Now this is a really cool particle file. It is actually a part of videocopilot.net, and I use this for a various number of things. But this particle looks really cool, so I'm going to use this particle. So what I'm going to do is drag and drop down over here, but this is only going to be used when the lens flare goes away. So boom, this happens. Of course I have to increase the size of this. That is actually 150, I believe. So I have to press Alt and press on the opening square bracket, and boom, there we go. And now when it goes up, here it is. This is how it's gonna look. But as you can see, the particles are looking a little bit more washed out. The best way to cure that or fix that is go to effects and presets and type in curves, because we're going to do some curves adjustment. The reason why we're doing this is because we're going to make these particles much more dark. So here is the fun part, and I like doing this a lot. We go to curves, drag this down, push it up a little bit more, maybe over here, and boom, there you go. That's all you needed to do. Actually, that is literally all you needed to do, because it's so dark and I don't want it so washed out, and this is exactly what I want. So at 10 seconds and 20 milliseconds, somewhere over here, we're gonna make that next text appear, the rest of the village. So we're gonna drag and drop the village textured one that is gonna go above the village Roman one. And we're gonna do the same. We're gonna press on Alt and opening close bracket. It's gonna bring it back over here. Now I did one mistake. Since I did not remove the VII, the 8 Roman letters from this village text, I have to push this village textured one down so that the 8 comes above it. Now it's gonna reappear. So all you have to do is click on opacity and go probably 1 second and make it 0, and boom, it's gonna slowly come above. As simple as that. Now just to speed this up, I already copied a text from my previous project into this. All you need to do is create this text called Resident Evil, and I used a font of Lemon Milk that you can find from dafont.com. I'm gonna link it down in the description below as well. Now usually the text is not this widely spread. All you have to do is go to characters, and you can find, if you don't have this, you can go click on window and click on character to find this very tab. Go down below, actually make sure that to click on this and scroll down, and make sure you see these AV that is separating each letter of a word, and make it somewhere above 500 to make this kind of separation, and there you're good to go. Also, another thing that you have to do is you have to make a gradient, because the Resident Evil is not a single color. So what I did use here is go to effects and presets, go and type in ramp. Now ramp is basically a gradient from one color to the other color. Usually what you see in Photoshop, a gradient. It's just like that. So as I disable ramp, you can see the color was actually gray, because that is what I made the text with. So by clicking on ramp, what I did is I made the left side more dark gray and the right side a little bit lighter gray. As you can see, it's not completely white, it's a little bit gray, and this first color is more black. Now the best thing about this ramp is that you can change the direction of the dark color and the light color. So let me show you. There are 2 points, as you can see, on the left and the right side. You can bring this closer and you can see the dark gray is actually way more darker, and you can bring the right one closer. You can see the white is more white. I actually like this one, to be honest. So I'm going to make the dark one go a little bit far to the left so that we can see a little bit less dark gray, and the white to come a little bit closer so that we can see more of the whites. So we can reduce the distance, we can increase the distance of each color from the text itself, and it's going to change the way it looks. Now this looks completely amazing to me. So that is what it is. It slowly comes up and it stays for a few seconds as long as you want. Now here's one more thing that we need to add. Since we know that we did all of this, we had this amazing flare coming up, but one thing we didn't do, we did not add glow to it. And the best way to do that is go to click on layer, new, and adjustment layer. I usually do these in adjustment layer. You can type in whatever you want, but we're gonna go here and type in effects and presets, type in glow. Go all the way down, it's in stylized glow, drag and drop it over here, and oh my god, it's a lot of glow. That is not what we want. The basic thing that we need is to see whether the 8 is having good enough glow or not. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to reduce the threshold a little bit, like around 50s. Make sure the radius is a little bit more, like around 50, 60 or something. The intensity is fine. We're going to change the color from black and white to something of our own. Now you can see the glow colors is original colors, which is not what we want. I'm going to click on this and click on A and B colors. Now this A and B colors is what you see over here, white and black. We're going to change it to something orangey. So first of all, we're going to drag down somewhere probably over this one. It's the outer one. As you can see, we can see the outer one getting more glow. The black one is kind of like the inner side. So we're going to make it something like this. Play with this as much as you can and see what works and what doesn't. We're going to duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D. Boom, we have a lot of glow. Don't worry, we have to increase the radius, increase the threshold a little bit, and reduce the intensity. Actually, you can also reduce the intensity of the previous one a little bit less over here. Add another glow, because I like adding more glows. And make sure that the radius is a little bit more. So what we are doing is actually when the light comes up, the 8 glows a little bit and then drops as we go ahead. The glow happens, and at 10 seconds, when I hit the opacity, I'm going to go all the way forward and we're going to make it 0. So it stays for a while and becomes 0, and then the village comes in. You can make the glow stay as long as you want. You don't have to be very accurate to how the intro is. But I want to be, so I did it in this way. So now, basically, we are done. But take a look at this. We don't want village glowing like this. So of course, what happens is we zoom in. We go a little bit forward when the light happens. Now remember that the light also glows a little bit more because I've seen that in the trailer. What we can do is we can hit the opacity, click on the stopwatch over here, go a little bit forward. Now place another stopwatch over here, go back and press the 0. Also I'm going to go a little bit far back and boom. Now what I'm doing is I'm increasing the opacity of this layer from 0 to 100 over here so that it glows, stays, and then boom, drops. Because I really want that the light also glows a little bit more than what we are actually seeing. I think this looks absolutely fantastic, and as you can see, we used no third-party plugins. It was all inside After Effects. You don't need to have any major third-party plugins to use, and it can be done all inside After Effects very easily and very quickly, and this is how you can do it. Now in order to export, you can press Ctrl M, that's a keyboard shortcut, and click on Output Module and click on Format and click on H.264. That's the best compression at this point. Click OK and type in whatever you want to type in and render, and it will render with the highest quality footage that you used in for the village one. Well, I hope you got to learn something in this tutorial using After Effects. I also don't know much about this software. I can do simple stuff like this in the software, but it's pretty fun to do. Alright, make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. You can also dislike if you didn't. Comment down below what do you think about this 2-part tutorial. Did you got to learn something new? Or what do you think about this whole remake of a intro and stuff? And also subscribe to Fierce Vision for more awesome content such as tutorial, fan trailers, and so much more. I hope you guys stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye and have a good one.